nalalidaloka tranaya karuna gana ganatam shamsharadava nalalidaloka tranaya karuna gana ganatam praptasya karyana punanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhya Manasura Sena Gita Vaditra Madhya Romanchakam pasru taranga bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Romanchakam pasru taranga bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Vigrara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Niramajanado Juktasya bhaktamsya niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Bhagavat Prasado Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Kripaiva Tripte Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Kritaiva Trapte Bhajata Shariva Shiradikama Bhavayarapara Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Davayarapara Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swa Dhanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Pratikshana Swa Dhanalolupasya Ne kunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Bhiri Juktir Apekshaniya Ne kunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Bhiri Juktir Tatrati Dakshar Ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Tatratirasya Ativarabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanar Sakcha Dharitena Shamasta Shastri Uktastatha Bhavyataiva Sadvi Sakya Dharitena Shamasta Shastri Kintu Prabhorja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Kintu Prabhorja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Om Yasya prasadan nagati kutapi Yasya prasadan bhagavat prasado Yasya prasadan Dhyayam stubham tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Dhyayam stubham tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Dhyayam stubham tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Dhyayam stubham tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Swami Nitina Mine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Patsatari Satarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Patsatari Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Bo Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Yaraya Namah, Krishna Jadavaya Namah, Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha, Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Shri Radha, Nila Madhav Radha, Nila Madhav Radhe, Jayo Radha, Nila Madhav Radha, Nila Madhav, Jayo Jagannath, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Subhadrama, Jayo Sudarshan Chakra, Jagannath, Baladeva, Subhadrama, Shri Sitaram, Jayo Lakshman Hanuman, Jayo Sitaram, Jayo Lakshman Hanuman, Jayo Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Premanande, Haribo. Jai Vishnu Paramananda Prabhajakacharya Sutara Saraswati Srimad ISKCON Pratishtha Vibhuti Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Siramani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhakti Datta Patita Pavana. His Divine Grace Abhacharabhina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai, Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patita Udhari Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhattara Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai, Jayananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Jai Param Dayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Jai Premanama Sankirtane Ka Janaka प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम सच्चिदानंद श्रीमन गौरांग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरणाय अवतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमदान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहद निदांग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुराधाम की जय। दिलो शिव श्री राधा नीलमाधव की जय। शिष्य माया पूर्णवदीप एक चक्रधाम की जय। जय परम करुण शिष्य गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु श्रीमती सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना कनिष्ठिंगरे भगवान की जय। जय गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। बोलो श्री मथुरा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर हरि परमानंदी हरि बोल। All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glories, all glories. Glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Prahlad Lad Daine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankhana khalaye. Nito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahi Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimhamadim sharanam prapade. Tava kara kamala vare nakam adbhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipu tanu vringam keshavadrita narahari rupa jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare tava kara kamala vare nakam adbhuta shringam kalita hiranyakashipu tanu vringam keshavadrita narahari rupa jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha hare jai jagadisha jaya Narsimhadev 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 jaya Narasimha jaya Lakshmi Narasimha jaya Lakshmi Narasimha jaya Lakshmi Narasimha jaya Prahlad Narasimha jaya Narasimha jaya Narasimha jaya Narasimha jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंह देव भगवान की।
Namo Namah Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namah Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namah Radha Krishna Seva Babo Eya Bilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilasi Jitomara Sharanaloy Tara Vancha Purnahor Kripa Kori Korotare Vrindavana Basi Moraya Vilas Vilas Kunjeri Avas Naya Neheri Bosada Sugala Ruparasi Eni Vedana Daro Sakir Anugata Koro Sevadikara diye Goro nijadasi. Dina Krishna dase koi Eye namora hoy. Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Vasi. Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Vasi. Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namah. Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Japa. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Nitagora Haribo, 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 Nitagora Haribo.
Short of the years wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him president of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also grant me a residence, pleasure grove. That's within my vision. I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower carry the images of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always sing love Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrindi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam Ki Jai. Cheto Darpanam Bhavamahada Bhagni Nivapanam Shreyakari Vachandrika Vittaranam Vidya Badhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Patipadam Purnamrita Shadanam Sarvatmasnam Parampara Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Itadrusitava Kripayam Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam Idrishamya Janina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Adhanam na janam na sundarim Abhitamba jagadishaka maye mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatar bhakti rahituki tvai ainandatanujakinkaram patitamma vishame bhavambudau kripaya tabapar pankaja stithadulhi sadrisham vichintaya nayanam galorashrudharaya vadanam gadagadarudaya gira purakairinchitam vapukada tavanam grahane bhavishyati juga itam nimishena chakyusha pravuscha itam shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahe name aslishva padaratam pinashtumam adarshnar manmahatam karotuva jata tathava vidadhatu lampata mat pranatastu saivana para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Kam Ki Jai Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Tishinma Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than strode straight. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, Samarada, I am fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Kam Ki Jai. Shmari Bhakti Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pracharani Nirvishisha Shunabadi Parashari Krisita. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme. Devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretations to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often invaders as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To to instruct the fearless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. Do not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jaivancha kalpatarubhascha upasindhayaivacha parikaram pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namo. Jai Ananta Kuch Vaishnavrind ki jai. Shri Guru Pranam Mangala Aarti jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakchurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Bandeyam Shri Guru Sri Jotapara Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatha Vintam Tam Sajivam Satritam Savarutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Visakambitam Cha Namaha Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Satyatari Satarine Namaha Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Saraswati Namine Shri Vaishnavana
Levi Daitaya Kipabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vidyana Name Madhu Ujvala Prematya Shri Bhakti Shakti Vigrahaya Namaste.
Namaste Gauravani Shri Bhakti Vinatani Rupanuga
Swaraya Sakshadvairagya Mutaye Vipralamba Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Nodaya Sachitananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Muravir Baba Bhumestvam Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpa Turabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurachase Namaha Pancha Tattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktavakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surator Pangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohana Divya Dvindaranya Kalpadramadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevimana Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivatatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhamanastute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sakalpa Vriksha Laksha Vritesa Surabhira Vipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kanandam Aravinda Dalayataksam Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesa Sobam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Galasarvamam Siratnam Pradam Pranay Keli Kala Vilasam Shyamam Tribanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakulendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Pantika Yanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaita Machuta Manadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Videsu Durlabha Madurlabha Matma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsala Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manasomani Pungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadsim Yavichintya Tatve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitum Jagadanta Kotim Yas Chaktirasti Jagadanta Chaya Yadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Baba Bhavita Dio Manijasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Manima Sanayanabusa Suktarya Mavendigama Pratitaistuvanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Vista Virya Even Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Even Visata Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vidochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokayante Yam Shamasundarama Chintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitistana Avatar Makarod Bhuvanesakintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhuto Jaganada Koti Koti Svasesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Benam Tad Brahmanis Klamanantam Asesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Chaigunya Tad Visaya Vidivitaya Manam Sadva Vulambi Parasatvam Visuddha Satvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Anga Nanda Chinmaya Charasaya Yapraninam Pativalam Smaratamul Petya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jaya Jasram Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nichitamni Tale Chitasya Devi Maheswari Dhamma Sutesu Tesu Tete Prabhavi Nichaya Vitascha Yena Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shrististati Pralaya Sada Vasakti Reka Jaye Vyasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Vapiyasya Chestatesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesi Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetu Yasam Bhutama Pitata Samapaitika Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Evhita Santanam Abhipetya Dipayate Vivitetu Samana Dharma Yastadri Geva Hitcha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Akarna Narna Vajale Balachisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagaranda Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Samurtim Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nishvasit Kalamatavalamya Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagaranda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalavi Sesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakalation Ujesa Tejas Riyamki Yapakata Yatapita Vradaktra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanu Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yatpada Palava Yugam Vinidayakam Vadwande Punamas Namayesa Ganadi Raja Vignam Vihantam Alvasi Jagatrayasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agni Mahika Ganamambu Manuti Saschakalas Tatakma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschaksuresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kalachakro Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Sutayastapam Si Brahma Dikita Patagava Deyastajiva Yadata Matari Bhava Prakadabha Bhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrinda Gopamatavendra Mahosva Karma Bandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kinchu Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kama Sahaja Bhunanadi Viti Batsaya Moha Guru Guru Vasavya Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadvisintana Mapurete Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Sriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purisha Kalpatarava Drumabu Mischintam Niganama Ito Yamamritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasa Kichidanandam Jyoti Param Apitada Swadhyam Apicha Sayatrasirabdi Vishavadi Sarabi Vyasta Sumahani Mesar Dakyo Vavarjiti Naye Atrapisamaya Bhaje Sritadvipam Tamaham Iha Gola Kamiti on Vedantaste Santakshiti Virachara Katipaye Ji Guru Vastika prayers ki The spiritual message receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual message of the mission of the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence are from my respectful base at the lotus feet of such spiritual messages, an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing, actually singing, playing musical instruments. Spiritual message is always set gladdened by the sanctum because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on it. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. From my my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship, Shisha, Radha, and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship. The Lord, I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is liquor, drunk, and sup. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes, Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these literary moment of my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving friends within the Rules of Vrindavan are from my most humble base, not the Lotus Street is such spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most competent servant of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lotus Street as such spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lotus Street of my spiritual master, his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text number 32. Evam Triloka Guruna Sandista Sabhyonina Vadarya Asadya Harim Ije Samadina. Evam, thus, Triloka, 3 worlds, Guruna, by the spiritual master, Sandista, being perfectly taught, Sabdayonina, by one who is the source of all Vedic knowledge. Badaryashramam, in the pilgrimage site of Badarikashrama. Asadya, reaching. Harim, unto the Lord. Ije, satisfied. Samadhina, by trance. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sukadeva Goswami informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge, and the spiritual master of the 3 worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badarikashrama and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shri Krishna is factually the spiritual master of the 3 worlds, and he is the original source of all Vedic knowledge. It is very difficult, however, to understand the personal feature of the Absolute Truth, even from the Vedas. His personal instructions are needed in order to understand the personality of Godhead as the Supreme Absolute Truth. Bhagavad Gita is the evidence of such transcendental knowledge in gist. One cannot know the Supreme Lord unless one is graced by the Lord Himself. Lord Krishna exhibited His specific mercy towards Arjuna and Uddhava while he was in the material world. Undoubtedly, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to encourage Arjuna to fight, and yet, to complete the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructed Uddhava. The Lord wanted Uddhava to fulfill his mission and disseminate knowledge which he had not spoken even in Bhagavad Gita. Persons who are attached to the words of the Vedas may also know from this verse that the Lord is the source of all Vedic knowledge. One who is unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by going through the pages of the Vedas may take shelter of one of the Lord's devotees, such as Uddhava, in order to advance further in knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahma Samhita says that it is very difficult to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedas, but he is easily understood from a pure devotee like Uddhava. Taking mercy on the great sages who lived in Badarik Ashrama, the Lord authorized Uddhava to speak on his behalf. Unless one has such authorization, one cannot understand or preach the devotional service of the Lord. While present on the earth, the Lord executed many uncommon activities, even traveling in space to bring down the Parijata flower from heaven and recovering the son of his teacher, Sandipani Muni, from the regions of death. Uddhava was certainly informed of the conditions of life on other planets, and all the sages were anxious to know of them, just as we are anxious to know about the planets in space. Uddhava was particularly deputed to carry a message to Badarik Ashrama, not only to the sages of the place of pilgrimage, but also to the Narayana deities. Such a message must have been more confidential than the knowledge described in the pages of the Vedas. The Lord is undoubtedly the source of all knowledge, and the messages dispatched through Uddhava to Narayana and other sages were also part of the Vedic knowledge, but they were more confidential and could be sent or understood only through such a pure devotee as Uddhava. Since such confidential knowledge was known only to the Lord and Uddhava, it is said that Uddhava was as good as the Lord himself. Every living entity can, like Uddhava, also become a confidential messenger on the same level as the Lord, provided he becomes confidential himself by dint of loving devotional service. Such confidential knowledge is entrusted, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, only to pure devotees like Uddhava and Arjuna, and one has to learn the mystery through them and not otherwise. One cannot understand Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam without the help of such confidential devotees of the Lord. According to Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura, that confidential message must have concerned the mystery of his departure and the annihilation of his dynasty after the end of his appearance in the mundane world for 100 years. When it says for 100 years, it means that Krishna appeared in the material world for 100 years plus. Everyone must have been very anxious to know about the mystery of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty, and that message must have been explained by the Lord to Uddhava and dispatched to Badarik Ashrama for the information of Narayana and other pure devotees of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Sukadeva Goswami informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the three worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badarik Ashrama and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. So we see that there is such a thing as very, very confidential knowledge of Krishna. This is explained also in Bhagavad Gita. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitam Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmam Susakam Kartama Avyayam. And that verse says that let's see where that verse is. So, 9th chapter, 2nd verse, it says, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Well, what Krishna revealed to Uddhava that he may not have revealed even to Arjuna was most confidential confidential knowledge, because it explained why Krishna decided to eliminate the Yadu dynasty and why he disappeared. People were perplexed by this, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the other dynasty were all his children and grandchildren. So why did they seemingly get intoxicated and kill each other? It's confusing. But yet there was a great plan. And this is something that pure devotees understand. Most devotees, we are all, myself included, real neophytes in Krishna consciousness. Obviously, there are going to be things that we don't understand. But if we are patient and we continue to strictly follow the regulative principles and chant, and also behave in a very meek and gentle way, and not becoming victim to the three doors to hell, lust, anger, greed, then Krishna will reveal to us this most confidential knowledge. And this is explained in many places. I'm going to go over them now. It's called the mystery of Krishna's transcendental knowledge. There is a mystery, and it's mystifying to most people. But by the mercy of Prabhupada and the Acharyas, that most confidential knowledge is revealed to us if we have the patience to hear regularly. Most people don't have the patience to hear regularly. They basically are not, let's say, perseverant in hearing and chanting. But when we become perseverant in hearing and chanting, then many things are revealed to us in a overwhelming way on a daily basis, not just once in a year or once in 10 years, but on a daily basis, many things are revealed. So, Prabhupada explains in the purport to 9.2, he says, this knowledge is the purest form of all activities as explained in Vedic literature. In the Padma Purana, man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be results of sin after sin. And then it says, those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reactions. For instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes time. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant. Then it assumes the form of a tree. Then it flowers and bears fruit. And when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results or the fruit of that sinful action are still to be enjoyed. There are sins which are still in the form of a seed, and there are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruit, which we are enjoying as distress and pain. So, this is a very profound statement that he's making here, that Prabhupada is making here, and it's based on information given by Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That is, that one may commit a sin, but one may not see the results of that right away. In the case of devotees, because they are devotees, they get the result right away. And then they make the correlation between, oh, I did this sin, oh, now I'm getting this reaction. Right? But in the case of non-devotees, sometimes they don't get the reaction until the next lifetime or several lifetimes. So they're completely perplexed or flummoxed, as they say in English. So they can't correlate that what sin did I do that deserves this type of punishment. So the worst sin, one of the worst sins, is abandoning your wife and children, especially abandoning a child that is dependent on a father and mother. So that type of abandonment has very, very severe sinful reactions. And we must be very careful in every action that we perform not to do something egregiously bad. So, therefore, it continues. As explained in the 28th verse of the 7th chapter, a person who has completely ended the reactions of all sinful activities and who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already freed from all reactions. This statement is confirmed in the Padma Purana. So in other words, if we decide to be engaged in devotional service and we are serious about it, and part of that is becoming initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and having spiritual masters, Shiksha and Diksha gurus, in the bona fide disciplic succession coming from Krishna and through Brahma, etc., through Arjuna till today, then we are actually free of our karmic reactions. But if we deviate, they come back. Right? So we have to be very careful not to deviate. But in order to not deviate, we must have a very high level of tolerance. Tolerance means there's going to be a lot of difficulties in the material world. That's the nature of the material world. And if we don't have a high level of tolerance, we will get upset, angry, and we'll leave, or we'll become lax in our devotional service because of that anger and what you would call a sense of being, let's say, insulted or abused or this or that. So that tolerance is also explained in Bhagavad Gita in the 12th chapter. We've gone over this before, but it's very important to hear it on a regular basis so that we always are aware of the importance of this point. So it's the 12th chapter, 13th, 14th verse. Advesta sarvabhutanam maitra karana evacha nirmama nirhankara samadukha sukha kshami santusta satatam yogi yatatma dhritanistaya maya pritamano buddhir yomad bhakta same priya. That last line says yomad bhakta same priya, and that means that such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Why? Advesta sarvabhutanam, because he is not envious, but a kind friend to all living entities, and who does not think himself a proprietor, maitra karana evacha. Nirmamo nirahankara, he's not nirmamo, he doesn't have any material desires, nirahankara, and he doesn't have a false ego, and who is equal in both happiness and distress, samadukha sukham shami, and who is tolerant, always satisfied. So santusta means very tolerant, and santusta satatam yogi. So satatam means always, so he's always santusta, satisfied or tolerant, and is also forgiving, and therefore always satisfied and self-controlled and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, Krishna says. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. So these are all qualifications if you want to be very dear to Krishna. That means he is dear to you, and reciprocally you become dear to him. This is confidential knowledge. Most people don't understand this. Even if they hear it, they don't understand it. And in the purport, it goes even further. It gives a much deeper explanation. And it says, coming again to the point of pure devotional service. Now, pure devotional service, that is the example is Uddhava and Arjuna, but especially Uddhava, because he is chosen by Krishna to carry the most confidential knowledge and instruct it in Badarik Ashrama to Narayana Rishi, who are incarnations. So Narayana, of course, is the expansion of Krishna, and Nara is Arjuna himself in another birth, because whenever Krishna appears in different incarnations, Arjuna is there in the material world. His liberation is in the material world, imagine that, because he's always with Krishna in all his pastimes. He doesn't remember them all because he's a jiva, but Krishna remembers all of them because he never changes his body. Of course, every time a person is born, they change their body. So it says, coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. That's 12th chapter, 12th and 13th and 14th verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances. This is extremely important. We're going to all experience situations that are very, very difficult and overwhelming and even bewildering. But the devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances. Why? Because he has complete faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the source of everything. He's present in the heart of every living entity and in every atom of the universe. Therefore, he has a plan. Now, one thing that the atheists teach, and they teach it very adamantly, that there is no plan. And not only there's no God, there is no plan for the material world. And that is wrong, very, very wrong. But see, when they teach these types of things to kids, and they profess it and emphasize it in books and lectures and this thing and that thing, people accept it, and they think there is no plan of the Lord. So that is one first mystery. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita in the, one second, let me find it. In the 13th chapter, 20th verse, where it says, one second, 13th chapter, 20th verse. It says, Bhaktim Purusham Chaiva Vidi Anadi Ubhavapi Vikrams Cha Gunams Chaiva Vidi Prakriti Sambhavan. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of nature are products of material nature. In the purport, Prabhupada says, it says, both material nature and the living entity are eternal. That is to say that they existed before the creation, during the creation, and after the creation is annihilated. So they have complete eternality. Christianity does not accept this. In Christianity, they came up with the crazy idea that that the soul only exists when it's born in the body, because they have a very strong bodily conception of life. But that's and then it goes through life. The soul, a person goes through life, and you only have one life. And at the end of life, there's a judgment, whether you go to heaven or you go to purgatory or you go to hell. Purgatory is a limbo state of being where you can wait till the final judgment, and then if you're not purified, you go to hell. You die. Your soul dies. it's crazy. I mean, if we explain everything, you would see it's all based on speculation by the Christians. Or you go to hell right away and suffer infinitely. So either you can die completely, your soul can die completely, or it can suffer eternally in hell. Or you can go back to Jesus in the spiritual world. So it's very confusing. There's different conceptions of it according to which sect of Christianity you're in. Therefore, but the main point is they don't accept the full eternality of the soul. And they all say it only begins when you are born in a body. That's why they insist that the body be not cremated. That's considered a big mistake. It has to be put in a casket and buried, because there's going to be a second coming of Jesus when all the souls, dead souls, come alive again, and they're given a final judgment, whether they go back to Godhead or they go to hell or they die. See? So it's very confusing. It's all speculation. There's no factual validation of it. But because it's based on the body. When the body dies, they bury it, and the cemeteries are very holy places. If anybody violates the sanctity, Christian sanctity of the graves, they can get prosecuted, right? So it's very important that the cemeteries are protected. And then sometimes they build these big mausoleums, that cost millions of dollars, and very powerfully built stone mausoleums in the graveyards. Anyway, it says here, the material manifestation is from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and so also are the living entities. But the living entities are of the superior energy. Both the living entities and the material nature existed before this cosmos was manifested. So it says basically, matter and the soul, or the jivas, are both eternal. But the jiva belongs to the superior spiritual energy of the Lord, the para prakriti, and the matter belongs to the inferior spiritual energy of the Lord, called apara prakriti. So we don't belong to the apara prakriti, the material nature. We belong to Krishna, and we're part and parcel of Krishna. Material nature was absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu, and when it was required, it was manifested by the agency of the Mahatattva. The Mahatattva is the sum total of all the material elements and the modes of nature. Similarly, the living entities are also in Him. We are part and parcel of Krishna, not part and parcel of the material energy, right? Although the material energy is eternal, and we are also eternal. And because they are conditioned, they are averse to serving the Supreme Lord. Thus, they are not allowed to enter into the spiritual sky. But with the coming forth of material nature, these living entities are again given a chance to act in the material world and prepare themselves to enter into the spiritual world. That is the mystery of this material creation. So here we see a major difference between the speculative philosophers that say that there's no plan of the material world. It happened by accident. It's going on its own. It organized itself. All crazy ideas, right, that are not true. And therefore, you can figure out whatever you want in your life. You want to eat meat, you want to murder someone, you want to be a good person, you want to be a vegan and not drink milk. Whatever you want, you can do. Right? You're free to do whatever you want. There's no such thing as a judgment. There's no such thing as a supreme Lord. There's no such thing as an eternal soul. The soul is also made of material elements, according to them. This is a whole bunch of nonsense, but yet it's taught to people today, see? And kids especially, as if it's the truth. Okay, so then it says, but with the coming forth of material nature, these living entities are again given a chance to act in the material world and prepare themselves to enter into the spiritual world. That is the mystery of this material creation. Actually, the living entity is originally the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So that, see, those people who say, we were not, we didn't fall down from the spiritual world. What? They're saying right there that we were all part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is in the spiritual world, right? So we were all with Krishna originally. However, but due to his rebellious nature, that means the living entity has a rebellious nature. And we see it all the time in life. You know? Let's say a kid is 6 years old and the father says, do this, so the kid does it because they're forced to do it, or they just naturally do it. But when the kid is 16, the father says, do this, and the kid says, well, I don't want to do that. So everybody has this rebellious nature. Is it natural? No, it's a perversion. But it's an echo, or it's a reflection of what we did originally when we rebelled against Krishna, and because of that we had to fall down to the material world. So that non-cooperation is part of the reason why we left Krishna. We did it originally. We chose to separate ourselves from Krishna. But due to his rebellious nature, he is conditioned within material nature. So as soon as we are rebellious to Krishna, and we continue to be throughout life, we become controlled by the modes of material nature, and we're being forced to do things. All the time we think we're independent, but actually we're being forced by the laws of nature and by the modes of nature. It really doesn't matter how these living entities or superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with the material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. In the scriptures, the Lord says that those attracted by this material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. So, there's a very interesting validation of this point. It says, okay, I'm going to come back to this point. I might not have wrote it down. Okay, we'll come back to this point. The Supreme, it does not really matter how, okay, the Supreme Personality of Godhead knows why or how we fell down from the material world, from the spiritual world. How and why this actually took place. In the scriptures, the Lord says that those attracted by this material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. But we should know it with certainty from the descriptions of these few verses that all transformations and influences of material nature by the three modes are also productions of material nature. All transformations and variety in respect to living entities are due to the body. As far as spirit is concerned, the living entities are all the same. So this is a profound statement. It means that everything that's happening to us, like we get COVID, we break our arm or leg or finger, we get a cut, we lose a job, we get a divorce. All these things are happening due to the body, and it's being controlled by nature, and ultimately it's being controlled by the laws of nature, and when we break those laws of nature are the same as Sanatana Dharma, or the occupational duties of a living entity. So, therefore, when we violate those laws, or if we act in goodness, there's reward and punishment to teach us that we are doing, to help us understand how to act properly. So most people keep accepting the punishment. They don't like it, but they keep accepting it and refuse to understand that this is a process by God to help us come to realization that we don't belong here. But yet people will continue to suffer birth after birth because they're envious of God. And they refuse to accept that there is a God and that they are subject to his laws of reward and punishment. Einstein was such a person. He absolutely rejected that there is such a thing, that there's a God who gives reward and punishment to living entities. And he also rejected that the soul is eternal. And there's a lot of things he rejected because he was actually not that smart. He might have been smart about some subtleties of material nature, but he was not smart at all about what is the purpose of life. He was very dumb. Okay, so coming back to the main point, and that is talking about this mystery. So it says in the 2nd canto, 9th chapter, 35th verse, O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I, myself, also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. So this is also this is one of the nutshell verses of the Bhagavad Gita, but this is also in the Bhagavad Gita, where it says in the 9th chapter, 4th verse, Maya Dakshena Prakriti, no, 1 second. It says, one second. Yeah. Mayitam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani chaham tesu avastita. He says, Krishna says, by me, in my unmanifested form, he's talking about the Paramatma, this entire universe is pervaded, all beings are in me, but I am not in them. So, what did this nutshell verse say? Srimad Bhagavatam 2:935. Please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos, and at the same time, do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time, I am outside of everything. See, this is bewildering. This is a mutually contradictory quality of the Lord, that no one else can emulate this, no one else can do this, and therefore, they say it doesn't exist. It's just a bunch of nonsense. It's contradictory. How can you be inside and outside at the same time, right? But Krishna can do things like that. How can you be very far away but yet very near? How can you have no legs but yet run faster than anyone? All these points are mutually contradictory qualities of Krishna that only devotees can understand. The non-devotees cannot understand. They said, this is nonsense. I'm not going to read any more of this nonsense. But no, the devotees understand because they know Krishna has unlimited potencies. Therefore, he can do these type of things. We can't. Okay, so it says that in the purport, I'm going to skip very quickly because I have to leave now. It says that the impersonalists can imagine or even perceive that the Supreme Brahman is thus all-pervading. And therefore they conclude that there is no possibility of his personal form. Herein lies the mystery of his transcendental knowledge. So it says, the impersonalists can imagine or even perceive that the Supreme Brahman is thus all-pervading. Yeah, they can see the Brahma Jyoti is everywhere in the spiritual world and in the material world. Right? Therefore, they conclude that there's no possibility of Krishna having a personal form. Herein lies the mystery of his transcendental knowledge, the mystery of the knowledge of Krishna. This mystery is transcendental love of Godhead, and one who is surcharged with such transcendental love of Godhead can without difficulty see the personality of Godhead in every atom and every movable or immovable object. And at the same time, he can see the personality of Godhead in his own abode, Goloka, enjoying eternal pastimes with his eternal associates, who are also expansions of his transcendental existence. This vision is the real mystery of spiritual knowledge, as stated by the Lord in the beginning. Sarahasyam tad angamcha. This mystery is the most confidential part of the knowledge of the Supreme, and it is impossible for the mental speculators to discover by dint of intellectual gymnastics. The mystery can be revealed through the process recommended by Brahmaji in his Brahma Samhita 5.38 as follows. Well, okay, I'm going to conclude right now, and then we'll discuss this much more. There's a whole, I've compiled a whole paper on this. This is very important information. The mystery is that a pure devotee is given vision by Krishna to see him through his heart, because Paramatma is in the heart, to see what's going on in the spiritual world and understand how Krishna is acting in the material world, and therefore being part of this Krishna net, this transcendental television that's not using any so-called scientific processes. It's being transmitted because of the full surrender of the devotee, and he gets this vision. Just like Krishna gave Arjuna a vision to see the universal form, for pure devotees he gives the vision to see what's going on in real time in the spiritual world through their heart and their mind, and it's a confidential thing. You can imagine how confidential it is. They're seeing what's going on in the spiritual world. And it's a mystery. No one can believe that such a thing is possible, but devotees do. So we'll stop right there. And this is a big subject. We're going to continue it for tomorrow and maybe a couple more days. This mystery of Bhakti Yoga. Okay, are there any questions?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So when Kali Yuga ends and then Satya Yuga again starts, so what happens to the karma of all the living entities? Because they're still...
Karma always stays with their soul. It doesn't have anything to do with the body.
Correct. So that means in Satya Yuga, shouldn't there be a lot of problems? Because Satya Yuga is a much more pure state of...
No, those devotees who were... the devotees will be living underground at the end of time.
In Kali Yuga.
Yeah. They'll be living... Already the Christians had to live underground in Rome. And they were being so much harassed by Roman authorities. As soon as they would see a Christian, they would throw them into the big arena and let them be eaten by lions and bears. Right? And this was entertainment for the people. They would come and they would see the gladiators fighting with each other, and every day one gladiator would kill another gladiator, right? And also they would see the Christians being eaten by these wild animals, right? So, therefore, the Christians started living underground. And it went on for a long time. But in the end of Kali Yuga, the devotees will be living underground, because if they're seen, they'll be killed right away. The people are so savage. So those devotees will either go back to Godhead, or they appear, if they still have some attachment to the material world, they appear in the next Satya Yuga.
And what happens to the people of the Kali Yuga who are not devotees?
They'll appear again, but later on.
So they'll be suspended.
Yeah, of course, Krishna is suspending everybody, right? and when Mahavishnu reabsorbs everyone, so they're in the state of sudupti, a deep sleep where there's no consciousness. Right? When you dream, it's not deep consciousness. You're dreaming usually right before you wake up, and then you have this dream, right? So you're not completely conscious, but you are conscious subtly in the dream. But sudupti is the state of very deep sleep where you're not conscious at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stop there. I got to go. Haribol. This is a very interesting subject. The mystery of Krishna consciousness, of Bhakti Yoga. So we should have a meeting with the class, so let's see about
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma. Bandha mohi savadhana mate. Jahara prasade bhai e bhavatoriya jai. Krishna prapti ho jaha hoite. Guru mukha padma vakya chitete koriya aikya. Arna kori ho mane asha. Shri Guru charane rati aise utama gati. Jai prasade pure sarva asha. Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se. Divya Gyan Hirde Prakashito. Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jaite. Vede Gai Jahara Charito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Lokenath Loke Rajivana. Ha ha Prabhu karo daya deho more pad chaya. Ebe jaz gushuk tribhuana. Prabhupada patita pavana. Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord birth after birth. From him, static prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take the shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavan Ki Jai.